TVC Breakfast Saturday. It's time now for a quick review, I must say, of the top stories in the papers this beautiful Saturday. Let's start off with the Saturday Telegraph. And of course, the cabinet reshuffle that occurred a few days ago here in Nigeria is still trending. Party loyalists unhappy over Tinubu's refusal to sack Lagos boys. That's how the Telegraph puts it. Exercise will change nothing. That's according to Galadima. And the National Working Committee, well, a member from the NWC is also quoted as saying it's the president's prerogative to sack anyone. We cannot dictate to him. Other stories on the Telegraph: British military donates 1 billion naira equipment to support fight against Boko Haram. Dangote refinery ships first 79.4 million liters of petrol by sea to domestic market. Buying, selling of honorary PhD degrees thriving in Nigerian universities. And Naira to stabilize soon, says Yemi Cardoso, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Emmanuel.
Right, quickly, let's move on to Saturday Times. And the big story here is House Committee uncovers 32 billion revenue leakage at the NUPRC, and that is the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. And the rider here, over 909 million naira diverted to private accounts. This is quite huge at the moment. Let's quickly move on to the masthead of Saturday Times this morning. Anxiety as health workers declare 7-day nationwide warning strike over unmet demands. All right, more stories on the front page as Lima Abubakar apologizes for falsely accusing Apostle Suleiman. And I have never been in love. Bibi Niger star there, they're talking. And also more stories. The story of Mubarak Alidu, who murdered his 7-year-old nephew after 5 million ransom. Quite pathetic. And I feel guilty for my son's accident. Stella Moye, they're talking. Nigerians face greater burden of disease than European and Americans. Dr. Adetunji James, they're talking. And now stakeholders to tackle security, energy challenges in tertiary institutions. All of the stories on Saturday Times this morning.
And now we move to the Guardian weekend. Of course, still in the wake of the rejigging of the cabinet, the ministerial cabinet, that is, fear of implementation as rollout of new basic education curriculum underway. Of course, the Ministry of Education was affected in the president's shake-up. Enter Tunji Alausa in the wake of the exit of Professor Tahir Maman as the Minister of Education, and a host of other changes that are built to occur. It remains to be seen how the ministry will, move after this shake-up. But that is it. You can get details from The Guardian. Reforms, that's economic reforms, up above the masthead there. World Bank, IMF face backlash amidst rising inflation, petrol costs. In the same vein, Professor Adeniyi there, Idon, is saying Nigerians are in a haste to reap from Tinubu's economic reforms. Why are they scared of EFCC? That's a big question on the back page of The Guardian weekend. You can also check that out. And Sade Thomas Fabum, Nigeria's ageless fashion matriarch, is also in the news.
All right, now we'll move on to Saturday Leadership Weekend. And Kano LG poll, CSOs flake courts over conflicting orders. Today's the local government election in Kano State. And TVC News will be keeping tab with events and happenings in Kano today. As the rider here accused politicians of bastardizing the judiciary and say international community watching. Election holds today. State government restricts movement. APC withdraws from race, warns against anarchy, and will continue to maintain law and order in that particular state. I'm talking about Kano State. That's coming from the police now. Subsidy removal, Tinubu's decision. That's IMF report there. And manufacturers ask FG to save ailing industries. On the masthead, we have inaugural lecture. Jonathan Sambo orders honor Dr. C. And Nasra has enough resources for sustainable development. Governor Sule there talking. All of the stories on Leadership Weekend this morning.
First News is next. Continue to pray for Tinubu. FCT Minister Wike urges Nigerians. I felt abandoned. Former President Jonathan reflects on pain of losing re-election as president. An interesting picture story there on First News. And that's of, it's captioned Unity in Diversity. President Tinubu and his opponent at the 2023 presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, sharing a cordial moment on Friday during Juma prayers and a wedding celebration in Abuja. There, in other news, from $36 billion to $3.5 billion, former President Obasanjo reveals strategy behind Nigeria's historic debt relief. APC withdraws from Kano LG polls. Court summons DSS chief over contempt in Nnamdi Kanu's case. And Kogi gets federal approval for new international airport.
All right, now we move on to the Nation newspaper. And the big story is on the Nation newspaper this morning is about flooding and 20 Delta communities submerged as 770 Benue households displaced. Page 2 there of the Nation newspaper. This morning, FG begins assessment of dams to avert disaster. And away from politics, we have the picture story of the President of Nigeria and Atiku Abubakar there. IMF advocates social protection plan backs FG's economic reforms. On the masthead now, helicopter crash, divers in race to recover victims' body and wreckage. And 2 more bodies recovered as Tinubu orders probe condoles with families. And we have a story there from the former president of Nigeria, my emotional turmoil after losing 2015 poll by Jonathan. All of the stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right, well, that's all we can take at this time on the paper review. So many stories, interesting angles to the prominent stories that, happened during the week. For example, the ministerial rejigging. Of course,
that was on Wednesday.
Right, absolutely. We are seeing, different dimensions. Of course, Saturday will also give, us journalists some more time to get more reactions, review the big stories of the day, of the week, I should say.
One interesting story here on the front page of the Daily is the picture story that I must say to Nigerians that that's what we call the unity in diversity. And also, there's this thing in politics that there's no permanent friend, no permanent enemy. What we have is permanent interest.
And there is a time for everything. When we want to contest against each other, we will.
And I love the fact that I saw the president, Mr. President, extending a handshake to
because there are some events that are polarized, especially during politicking. But there are times of the year, or there are times where inter-party, there's a place where we see on our, the mosque, the church would also be correct to say it's one of those places where no matter where I'm from, we will be there. We will see each other.
It's a good one.
Gentlemanly, courtesy demands, maturity demands that, you just.
For me, I call it a spirit of sportsmanship. Let's move on, no matter the differences that we have.
Even though the next moment I might just go onto the press and attack you, but it's
very interesting
all interesting to see, indeed. All right, still talking about the ministerial rejigging. That's the